So thank you for joining us at this forum. We decided some time ago to twice a year to have this opportunity to present news and to have a conversation with the CITRIS community. So I appreciate you being here. So today, I would like to give you, with lots of help from the CITRIS leadership, some recent highlights. I'll talk a little bit about the CIT Grant Awards. Primarily, the main subject for today is to present the new 5-year strategic plan and the new CITRIS research initiatives that are the centerpiece of this plan. We'll talk about industrial and institutional collaboration opportunities. Some announcements. There are always lots of events happening, and it's hard to keep up to speed. So some announcements about that, and of course an opportunity to discuss what this all means. Looking for highlights is actually quite challenging. There is so much happening in CITRIS, so we picked those 4 as highlights. Quite important for sure, but we could have picked many more. The first one, there is a multi-campus research program and initiatives opportunity that actually was led by UC Merced, by Roger Bales, and it was funded on UC water security and sustainability. So this initiative, it is a $3.2 million initiative. It involves our own Roger Bales as director, Josh Veers as a co-director, and includes investigators from Berkeley, Davis, Merced, and Santa Cruz. And this initiative actually borrows many of the CITRIS operational ideas. For example, they're going to be running a seed grant within that initiative in order to promote these new ideas. And of course, it's very, very topical and links very well to whatever we do in CITRIS. So a big success. Speaking of UC Merced and Josh has been named into another important post. That I have to say that the Public Policy Institute of California recently founded a water policy center. That, of course, is very topical. It's very critical. It has to deal with drought and shortage and management and stewardship of water. And Josh was invited to participate as an expert in the field and contributing scholar. So again, that's another way that CITRIS can spin out what we do and participate in the community, as we say, for the benefit of society. The third one, I have to say that when I was reading it, 3 SAGE scholars present at Pasteur Institute in Paris, I did not quite know what it meant. I have to admit that I'm kind of ashamed to say that I cannot follow everything that is happening, but then looking into it and learning more about it, I realized how important it is to actually give the prominence that our students deserve. In this particular case, 3 of our students, Sanjay Krishnan, Omoju Miller, and Charvi Shetty, were invited to present their work at the Pasteur Institute by being named SAGE Scholars. That's actually the title that they received. They presented their work in front of an international audience of interdisciplinary researchers and entrepreneurs. And this work referred to our successes establishing and using the California Report Card as a civic engagement platform. It involved presenting the idea of a portable spirometer for asthma management and a new computer science MOOC for developing countries designed in partnership with Google. So very important work, a very good opportunity for our students to present it and represent CITRIS. And finally, in this brief summary of highlights, the CITRIS Awards for the Big Ideas contest happened very recently. Almost $25,000 were submitted, were actually awarded for IT for Society. And the grand prize winner is the group that focuses on technology that allows people with physical disabilities to control electronics directly with their brain. So very impressive, very promising, and it's going to move on to present in other forums, for example, at the Grand Prize Pitch Day on April 28th. I would like to remind all that this opportunity is open across the CITRIS community for people to present and be recognized. Now, one of the important tools that we have at our disposal is to give the incentives needed for people to pursue new ideas. And we like to use the term seed. Seed is a term that is used a lot in the entrepreneurial community, something when you find an idea, hoping that it will grow from there on its own. And we do this not only in the entrepreneurial sphere through the foundry, but we also do it in the research sphere. So the idea here is to invite researchers within our ecosystem to propose new ideas that would not be able to be funded at this stage because they're very early from outside, but within a year to grow to the point that become large extramurally funded projects. So this year we were awarded $600,000 in interdisciplinary multi-campus research funds. We have received 24 proposals, so we awarded 11. All 4 campuses are involved, and you can see here the distribution. Now I have to say that maybe recognizing the campuses proportional to the amount of dollars is probably not entirely appropriate, but at least tells you that there is good representation. And of course, UC Davis counts as 2 campuses because of the very important medical center in Sacramento and its participation. Now, standout themes this time, we use, by the way, the seed grant product in order to subtly steer CITRIS into new opportunities. So data analytics for health was promoted as a standout theme, and received quite a bit of attention. Resilience, energy, and agriculture. So we're very pleased with that, and we have very high hopes that this lead into big investments. Now, today I would like to tell you a little bit about our strategic plan for 2015 to 2020. This strategic plan is the result of quite a bit of thought and collaboration. We have started a conversation about this as early as last summer. We have discussed it formally and informally with our advisory board. It became the central theme of our conversation at the retreat that we held at UC Merced in the fall, and the central theme at the meetings that we have with the advisory board and many meetings that we have with most of you in this room and beyond. And so the text has been distributed recently. We can look at it. A very, very brief summary is given in this slide. That gives at least the framework that we use to think about these things. We think about the technology landscape. That's the one on the left. We think about the challenges that CITRIS should address in the interest of society. And we think about the possible solutions, the pragmatic solutions, the difference-making actions that we can take in this time frame. Knowing, of course, our position as an academic upstream research institution. So when you look at the technological landscape, many things are quite obvious. For example, an exponential growth of data. Cloud and mobility is becoming, both of them are providing the platforms that we run our lives and businesses. Internet of Things, that's a term that has been used a lot. It might mean a lot to many people. But even with this perhaps lack of specificity, it is becoming an extremely important cross-cutting platform for data collection, for management, for control, for enhancing visibility with our environment, both our man-made and natural world. And of course, even though Moore's law has stopped acting the way Moore's law envisioned some time ago, our ability to go deeper into the nanoscale, it keeps improving in different ways. And that is something that also informs the technological landscape that we have to navigate, and actually also contribute in forming. Now, the challenges, again, in the interest of society, we have to recognize the aging population in the developing nations. We have to recognize the urbanization that is happening globally. People are moving into mega cities around the world. We have to recognize globalization with the opportunities and challenges that it presents. And of course, the climate change that puts a strain on all the infrastructures that we need. Now, quite a bit of thought has to be given on what we can do as an organization. Of course, we can write papers. Of course, we are proud of graduating the best students around. Of course, we are proud of having an influence in society in many ways. But when you're looking for impact and you're looking at the appropriate time scale beyond the horizon, as we should, you're looking at developing and influencing the development of new markets. You're looking at creating and leveraging platform technologies. And you're looking at opportunities. The opportunities that are important to us is the opportunity of mass customization. This term has been used a lot. It means a lot. And it has implications from manufacturing to healthcare and to many, many other aspects of our lives. So mass customization is an important trend that we would like to promote and we would like to push the envelope on. Of course, that has to be done with an eye to privacy and security. And of course, we have to always be serving the goal of increased resilience because our environment is always under pressure. So a new generation of information technology solutions for the benefit of society. What does this mean and what you can do about it? Well, what we can do about it is to reshape the collection of key research directions or initiatives, as we call them, and reshape them in a way that we feel best serve those objectives. So following that, and after quite a bit of deliberation, and with quite a bit of an eye to continuity to what you have accomplished in the past, we're moving on with 4 new initiatives, and we'll tell you a few words about them in the next few minutes. The new initiatives, we call them sustainable infrastructures, and I will explain what that means, and some other people will talk about it. We would call them connected communities, people and robots, and health. You probably recognize the resemblance and continuity to the previous initiatives, the information technology for energy, information for energy, and intelligent infrastructures that is the genesis of sustainable infrastructures. Connected communities is an evolution of data and democracy. Health is an evolution of healthcare, where by truncating the title, we're expanding its scope. And people and robots is a recognition that we have so much of this activity and technology and intelligence in our midst that it really deserves to become a focused initiative. So in addition to the initiatives, we are proud to enclose a very healthy ecosystem of research assets, or as we call it, the invention ecosystem. And to those among us or to those outside that are perhaps a little bit confused of what CITRIS is, CITRIS really is these 2 things, the initiatives and this invention ecosystem. The invention ecosystem includes laboratories. The Berkeley Marvin Nanofabrication Laboratory is perhaps the flagship among them. Of course, the CITRIS Invention Laboratories, the CITRIS Foundry, an incubator. There is an S in parentheses in those 2 that is behind our plans to expand. The CITRIS Seed Funding Program that I mentioned a few minutes ago, and activities like mobile app challenges, hackathons, and activities to embrace and bring together the maker movement, all the way through the pipeline from undergraduate students and beyond. We also have, year after year, we invest in pilot initiatives. This year, we are glad that we have invested in work led by Jennifer Granholm on the American Jobs and Green Energy project. It's a project that is likely to have nationwide impact, the way it is actually working out, and also on the work under Professor John Seisman on the globalization and technology transfer challenges. So these are good pilot initiatives, and we'll be looking into them to see how they evolve. And of course, CITRIS is meant to be an outgoing and looking outwards organization. So partnership development in industrial and both in industrial and institutional memberships. Of course, collaborating very closely with the other 3 University of California Institutes for Science and Innovation, and of course, embracing and working very closely with many very active student organizations in our midst. So at this point, I would like to go a little bit deeper into these 4 new initiatives and tell you a few words about them and invite the leadership to share a few things with you as well. So the first one, CITRIS Sustainable Infrastructures Initiative. I hope that by repetition, this term is going to roll a little bit better. But the idea here is that when people talk about energy, when people talk about resilience, when people talk about security, and so on, it is important to recognize that these elements cannot be addressed in isolation. They have to be addressed in a union. So the mission is to pursue information technology in energy, water, and transportation as parts of the cyber infrastructure of a sustainable society. This is, again, an outgrowth of the very successful I4Energy initiative and the very successful Intelligent Infrastructures initiative. And it's going to be focusing on energy efficiency, grid dynamics, water conservation, snow water hydrology, transportation networks. Now, as I mentioned, these words is very important to recognize that we are not doing these things in isolation at CITRIS. There is quite a bit of activity on this campus and beyond. For example, the Institute of Transportation Studies, who is making the living worrying about transportation networks and systems, and we envision this work in close collaboration with them. So with that, I would like to invite David Kaller, who graciously agreed to continue his leadership role and having fun within CITRIS, to say a few words about the initiative.
Great. Thanks, Kostas. So I think I'd like to begin with observing that, running a big institute like this is generally viewed as a thankless job. So I want to begin by thanking Kostas for taking it on. And of course, thanking Paul Wright for taking the big, broad, general concept of CITRIS into an initial set of initiatives, and really for Kostas in stepping in to try to rethink those and take stock of where we've come, where we're going, and give them a sharper focus. So I think that's hugely beneficial as we move forward, and I think it's reflected in some of the terms. I was struck in, as we worked on this slide, it's not just about facilitating and communicating, it's about pursuing research. And so it does have a stronger, bolder thrust to it. I want to talk a little bit about that transition. So there's really three driving issues, I think, behind it. One is that, well, there's no question that achieving sustainability is the question of our time. And as we start to break that down to pieces that we work on, energy, water, transportation, they're all interlinked in various ways. So, what's the single largest consumer of energy in California? Moving water around. We've done incredible things with buildings. That doesn't touch transportation. But what happens when transportation becomes electrified? And now the critical thing in controlling the family of things in the home that extend out to charging the electric vehicle is how can they become part of a cooperative grid? How can they become a good citizen on the grid? So one notion was really that the underlying efforts here had all kinds of interactions, places where we wanted to work together. So by putting them together, we no longer even have the discussion about the boundaries, but really look at the confluence amongst them. The second is really that the nature of the IT research is very common across them. Each of them reflect a case where historically the issue was the physical plant, and in some sense that's become the physical plane, the transmission and distribution for electricity, the roads and cars for transportation, and so forth. And what we're doing really is creating the information plane that overlies that physical plane in order to operate it in a fundamentally more sustainable way, taking advantages of eliminating waste, grading creator efficiency. And one concept that's really come through, for the last 100 years, we had to deploy very simple solutions because information was so rare and so precious. Now it's pervasive, and we can afford, in fact, it's most attractive to deploy sophisticated solutions that tie them together. And it's very interesting how progress advances differently. And for me, the most profound thing was when we bought our first American car ever, a Ford C-Max plug-in hybrid. And what's so clear is your phone is not an accessory. It's central to how you operate that vehicle. And of course, airlines have discovered it. So that notion of this ubiquitous connectivity to the people and what they do, that all of this infrastructure is really there to support, has turned around the orientation. And I think that's becoming throughout this the common thrust that gives an opportunity for CITRIS to actually make some real headway in some of these tremendous goals. And of course, with the recent UC president's announcement of UC achieving emission neutrality incredibly soon, Berkeley at 30 megawatts is 0.1% of the California electric grid? Well, there's 10 campuses. A rough calculation would say we're 1%. The kind of things we do within our community actually can be templates for how we move forward in that very long term. So that's kind of the concept of where we'd like to go with these. And of course, the key in I4Energy has in large part also been Carl and Teresa's efforts to bring community together. And I want to say just two things. One, that what it's allowed us to do, given the community that cuts across this, is to respond to innovative opportunities, such as the effort that Alex just led in ARPA-E, really responding to a call for a very different view on transportation that brought all of these information aspects, or recently such efforts as Sasha Van Meyer's micro-PMU, where we're doing things we never thought we could do in terms of observability, and is creating really profound computer science challenges. So, Carl, did you want to say a word or two before I hand this over?
Sure.
Thanks.
If being a CITRIS director is a thankless job, I think being a faculty initiative director may be even more thankless. And so I want to begin by thanking David, who's provided really insightful leadership. I think we're looking forward to more engagement with, there's kind of an integration now happening between the earlier infrastructure program and the energy program, and we're working on that. And particularly the most recent effort is to work with Alex in developing a major proposal where we have our fingers crossed, but a big ARPA proposal which engages Berkeley Lab. It engages computer science, and particularly one of David's graduate students who's a mature industry professional who's come back for a PhD, and many of the people in the Transportation Research Center. So we're, it's good times in some sense. There's some challenges as well, but we're looking forward to kind of some exciting and stimulating new work.
Thank you, guys. It's actually not thankless at all. And that, of course, reminds me that if there is thanks to be given, it has to be gone to a team, but also primarily to among the team co-leaders is Camille Crittenden, who's actually going to ask her to say a few words about this one in a moment, because he has done quite a bit of the thinking and quite a bit of putting some very abstract thoughts into a very rational framework for us. Now, the next initiative that we'll hear a few words about is the Connected Communities Initiative. That, as I mentioned, is a natural outgrowth of an evolution of the Data and Democracy Initiative. And it, of course, involves leveraging information technology and its ability to help us, to help the citizenry connect with our leaders and people who make decisions on our behalf. But also goes now beyond that. It deals with the issue of open data. It deals with the issue of open government. It deals with issues of citizen science, what that means in today's world. And with that, I'm pleased to tell you that Professor Björn Hartman has agreed to lead this initiative together with Camille Crittenden. Of course, you have to be very careful because Björn has many other duties these days, including playing a leadership role in launching the Jacobs Institute that is actually going live in a few months from now, and the building is about to be completed. So his transition to into the new initiative leadership role is going to be done in full acknowledgement of the other duties that he has. So with that, I would like to invite Camille to say a few words about the new initiative as a co-director of the initiative.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. It's really such a pleasure to be here. I wanted to start by really thanking and recognizing the work that has led to this point, and thanking in particular Ken Goldberg for the work on the Data and Democracy Initiative, and Paul Wright's foresight in creating the initiative a number of years ago. When I came to CITRIS back in 2012, it was to serve as the director of this initiative, and it's been really such a pleasure and honor to work with Ken and the team and everyone here to build that initiative to where it is today and to celebrate its accomplishments. Building on that initiative, I just wanted to highlight a couple of the projects that were started under that and that will continue in some fashion well into the Connected Communities initiative, even as we expand it. You've heard about already the California Report Card, the Rashomon Project. Those are based here at UC Berkeley. Stories of Solidarity, based at UC Davis. Metavid and others at UC Santa Cruz, in addition to the events and convenings that we've hosted here on open data, privacy and surveillance, video archives, all kinds of topics related to data and democracy that will now be expanded. So there are a couple of ways that the Connected Communities initiative will be expanded. One is in technology, as Kostas referred to, so expanding beyond the idea of creating new software platforms. Will build on Bjorn and others' expertise and the facilities that we have here in the Invention Lab to think more about interactive device design and critical making, those kind of DIY communities, and how we can think creatively about devices and that real point of user interface in whatever fashion it may come to bear. In addition to expanding the technology capacity, that intersection of software and hardware and systems, we're also expanding the domain areas that we'll be looking at in the Connected Communities initiative. So data and democracy, as its title reflects, was focused mostly on political and social and economic kind of issues. In Connected Communities, we'll expand that to educational opportunities, so online learning, not just the MOOCs that we have been talking so much about, but also informal opportunities, also DIY and maker communities there. We'll be expanding into areas of philanthropy, looking more at ICT policy, and as Kostas had referred to, open data, open gov, different ways that we can help to bring government and policymakers closer to the people that they represent. So which communities, you might ask? And we're connecting communities, which are they? We work with a whole range of communities, of course, here at CITRIS. The mission is in the interest of society. But I think that we may see a sharper focus in the coming months and years, not just on youth, which we think of as taking up these sort of online platforms so readily, but also in other kinds of underrepresented and marginalized communities. So perhaps immigrant populations or the urban or rural poor. We'll be working with other organizations both here in California, nationally and internationally, to see how we might be able to make a contribution there. I want to acknowledge and really thank and look forward to the support of the other campuses as well. We had a strong core faculty group in the Data and Democracy Initiative, a number of whom will be continuing into the Connected Communities Initiative. So Eric Paulos will be a key person here at UC Berkeley, working with Bjorn and myself. At UC Merced, we'll continue to work with Robin DeLugan and Steve Roussos at the Blum Center and in the Sociology Department. At Davis, we'll work with Jesse and Glenda Drew, both in technocultural studies and design, and also with Warren Sack at UC Santa Cruz. So CITRIS being a 4-campus initiative, we really want to involve strongly all of those faculty members from all those campuses. With that, I'll turn it back over to Kostas.
So the next one, I have to say that we put quite a bit of thought on what to do and how to organize. And this one is the one initiative that will be impossible to stop it from happening. Because we have so much natural talent and world leadership really in this area that is actually needed to be done. And I'm glad that Ken Goldberg and many others are stepping forward to lead it. Now, we agonized over the name of this for a while, the obvious name, robotics, some non-obvious and creative names. But then if you look at the research themes that are cloud robotics, robot learning, human-centric automation, and bio-inspired robotics, among others, then Ken's suggestion of people and robots is quite natural, and actually we're very pleased with that. So with this, I would like to invite Ken to come and say a few words and invite some of his many co-leaders to contribute. Thanks, Ken.
Great. Thank you, Kostas. I have to say it's a great pleasure to be here at this moment. One of the things, as Kostas alluded, is that this particular initiative has kind of been percolating for quite a while. to 50 years, if I may. All of the campuses have been pioneering in research in robotics and controls, optimization, and design. And in a sense, it's been in the atmosphere. And so it's very nice to be able to bring it together in this context and work together with this wonderful organization, CITRIS, with a tremendous history going back to Rich Newton and his vision of cross-campus, cross-disciplinary interactions that extend beyond engineering into other fields of the humanities and social sciences. So we've been thinking very much in that spirit, and I want to say that we, as Kostas suggested, we would do an inventory. And so we went out and looked at what kind of research was going on at the different campuses and within our own campus, and we discovered 60 faculty at this count who are doing research in these areas, and a huge diversity of interesting projects involving, and we're going to hear from 3 of them today. The idea is that the entire field of robotics is undergoing an inflection point. There's been enormous progress in the last few years in surgery, in UAVs and flying vehicles, and also in driving. This has been headline news. Many companies are involved, like Google, Amazon, Uber now. But at the same time, there's a great deal of anxiety about robotics. And there's a fear, terms like the singularity has been in the news as well. And the public has legitimate fears about what is the potential, what is this going to mean, especially in terms of jobs and alienation. So we felt it was very important to take this perspective as a public university where we have a long tradition of thinking about these problems from a more societal level in the interest of society. So one of our objectives that will distinguish us, we hope, from other research groups is that we'll always keep the people in mind. That, in other words, as we think about the robot systems, we're always going to think about what are the benefits for us, for people, and also how people will play an integral role in these systems. We really see this idea, the spirit, that we're going to be looking very carefully at the role of humans involving human demonstrations, human learning, human training, human feedback that will be integral with robotic systems. So we don't see them as completely something autonomous and outside of human interaction. So with that, I want to invite my colleagues. There's a very large group of us who are working on this from all of the campuses, but I've asked Stefano, Peter, and Claire to speak very briefly on their own work. And so, Stefano, if you would come up and unfortunately, we just have a very short time, but I want to give you a snapshot of the kind of research that we're going to be doing.
Yes, so actually, this is part of one of the seed projects that is just being, one of the seed projects that is just being funded by CITRIS this year. So we're developing and deploying robots to go into vineyards and orchards to collect data about water consumption, nutrients, disease spreading. This is to cross-validate data which is collected with UAVs or satellites. And the ultimate goal is to provide farmers with better data so that they can formulate more informed decisions in a time where California is experiencing a dramatic drought. California is the top producer of fruit and vegetables in the nation. And these farms are so huge that manual data collection is not even possible. So you have to somehow automatize it. And so we're starting with ground vehicles, and in the long term, we will deploy multiple vehicles and ultimately integrate it with aerial vehicles as well. And that's what we're going to do.
Great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Peter Abil, and so for decades we've actually had robots in manufacturing and logistics doing really amazing things for us. But it's been proven really, really difficult to get these robots to also be effective in our homes and offices, where tasks are much less repetitive. I think this might be about to change, thanks to deep learning. Here's a history of deep learning, which goes back quite a long way. But really, the last 10 years is when it's gotten to the forefront of artificial intelligence, thanks to big breakthroughs and results accordingly in computer vision and speech recognition. enabling capabilities well beyond what was possible before. The same thing might be about to happen in robotics. And so one of the major trusts in the new CITRIS People and Robots initiative will be to explore and advance deep learning specifically for robotics.
Great. Thank you, Peter. And Claire.
So one of the big challenges that we currently face and moving forward in robotics is to design robots and automation that work well with people. So interacting with people, but often also systems in which the control authority for the system is shared between robot automation as well as people. And so moving forward here, we're thinking about part of this initiative focusing on a range, and I've just plotted a few applications, as well as a sort of scale of different levels of autonomy. And so we can think about sort of point examples in each of these and agree that in the most part, the human, as Ken was saying earlier, is central to these automated systems that we're designing. So our goal here is to think about a framework and principled ways to think about how to design automation that takes into account humans, cognitive models of humans, and how humans interact with the systems.
I must say, I'm incredibly fortunate to work with such terrific colleagues, and I'm so excited about this new initiative. We're also going to be working with other groups on campus, the Simons Institute, the AMP Lab, ITS, and PATH. There is so many resources out there that we want to be reaching out to from across these campuses and even beyond. So we welcome your engagement. If we've missed anyone, and this will be an ongoing process in the next few months, we have a website. Thanks to Cheryl and Julie for setting this up. It's going to open up, I think it's opened as of this morning, with a sign-up sheet for information, a link. And we welcome your engagement, so please get in touch with us. We'll keep you posted about developments. There's a number of things we're very excited about working on in the next few months. And with that, I also want to thank again Camille. It's been a delight working with her in the Data and Democracy. I'm very excited to continue being part of the CITRIS family, and I want to thank Costas for having the vision to do this reorganization. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken, Peter, Claire, Stefano. Indeed, there is quite a bit of material already on our website, and again, many thanks to Julie and Cheryl for putting all this material together and helping us with this presentation. So last, and certainly not least by any stretch of the imagination, is the CITRIS Health Initiative. That's a historical source of success and pride for CITRIS from the CITRIS Healthcare Initiative. Big successes in telehealth on mobile devices and sensors. And we'll be glad to continue this. As I mentioned before, we are truncating the name in order to signify an expansion in the scope. We've gone from healthcare to health. And we'll be looking at improving health outcomes. And I've been being educated in this. I've been told that Obamacare, for example, has brought a revolution on how successes in healthcare are being measured. In fact, they're being measured in a much more rational way. And that, of course, plays to our advantage of being rational people, being scientists and engineers. So I expect great outcomes there. Another big change is, of course, big data. And big data in the abstract might mean many things. It might mean better marketing and better clicks and better yield for your clicks, but it also means better health, especially if you leverage the modern analytics and the volume data that you have at our disposal. So again, we have very big expectations for this initiative as it continues and grows. And I would like to invite Tom Nesbitt, who graciously agreed to continue leading it along with David Linderman.
Well, thanks. I'm happy to be here. I think it's probably obvious to most of you why health is a issue facing society. We're getting close to spending $3 trillion, and it became very obvious many years ago that it was unsustainable. And finally, there were changes that occurred in how we plan to deliver health care in this country. But again, we're spending almost $9,000 per person. The problem with that is that the United States has very poor outcomes relative to the rest of the world, and particularly relative to the amount of money we spend. The two areas of the country with some of the worst health indicators are Appalachia and the Central Valley of California. And so we have major problems. You know, the Institute of Medicine stated back in 2001 that technology must play a central role in the redesign of the healthcare system. And in order to do that, that's going to mean creating new technology-enabled models of care that involve moving care out of expensive environments. It's going to mean the development of devices to monitor and promote health, as well as now being able to provide sophisticated predictive analytics to healthcare data to improve health and really to move into this area of what we're calling precision medicine. You know, if you think about the way we have delivered healthcare, we've delivered healthcare by making patients get to the expertise. It's one of the few areas that is way, way behind in moving expertise to where the consumer is. But we still require people to move to the expertise. It's very health profession centric. And so we need to be able to figure out ways to move the expertise to where patients are and where people are. We need to treat patients in the home and in the community. We need to involve patients themselves in their care, and people and family and caregivers that are informal rather than professional caregivers. And probably the biggest change that has happened that is going to really drive this is that in the past, we've been reimbursed for process. So we've been reimbursed very, very well. I'm a physician. I work at a big teaching hospital. We get paid a lot for the process of care. But that is changing radically. By 2017, half of what CMS is going to be paying is going to be for outcomes. And as we move to outcomes, it leads to a possibility of using technology to try and promote those outcomes and promote health rather than just provide health care. And this means really developing transformative, scalable, sustainable solutions to improve health and wellness. So you can see from the slide, you know, some of the strengths that we already have. There we go. But we also have a lot of resources that we haven't tapped completely. And I want to say that first of all, there are people across all 4 campuses that have been very involved in this and are very interested in this. And from the number of seed grant proposals, you can see that. We also see an opportunity, a really great opportunity to work across the 4 initiatives. There are things that have just been talked about in the other initiatives that I think that we can use in working with in this health initiative. We also are fortunate that we have partners outside of UC that are very, very interested in what we're doing. And one of those that I'd like to just mention is the Transatlantic Telehealth Research Network, which involves colleagues at the Cleveland Clinic, at the Center for Connected Health at Harvard, as well as our colleagues at Aalborg University in Denmark. And we're working together to look at technologies that can promote health, that can treat people where they are rather than move them into institutions. And I think we have a real opportunity to really accelerate what we've been doing in this initiative with all of this. I also want to thank everyone at CITRIS that's been so supportive of the health initiative and kept this going. But I think, as Costa said, I think we are really at a point where we're going to see a rapid escalation in the achievements in CITRIS Health. So thank you very much.
So a few words about, now that we heard about the initiatives, by the way, the official rollout date for the new initiative is going to be the new fiscal year, July 1st. So until then, we'll be accumulating materials and collateral both on our website and beyond in order to keep you informed, and we welcome your inputs. As I mentioned, CITRIS is fortunate to have a very healthy innovation ecosystem: the Foundry, the Invention Lab, Social Labs Lab, Mobile Lab Challenges, Marvell Nano Lab, and of course, multi-campus test-based facilities. Just a few words about the Foundry. The Foundry is actually a very interesting experiment. It's a very early stage incubator. It is, I would call it almost a boutique incubator, not to want to take away from its depth, but in the sense that we carefully select 2 cohorts of companies every year, 5 companies each. The competition to get into the select group keeps getting stiffer and stiffer. For example, now I think we selected 1 out of 5 companies that apply, or something like that. Our companies now have raised about $10 million, more than $10 million. They added $30 million to the economy, and I was curious to find out what that means. So how does a company add to the economy? And I was told that this is a very conservative estimation of the valuation of those companies as they go out. Sometimes the valuation is because of a fundraising, of a funding event or a valuation event. Others is in other cases, a very, very conservative evaluation based on the team and its achievement. So $30 million. That represents 105x, more than 100x multiplier of the effort and money that we put in these companies. And 15 out of the 16 companies are still alive. In a world where 1 out of 10 startups makes it, that's still pretty good. Of course, the jury's still out for many or most of them. 4 companies graduated this time. Let's see if I remember them. One of them is SmartBoard. The other is... you have to remind me. The 4 graduates this year? The 4 recent? Huh?
Clarity, the wearable air pollution monitor.
Yeah.
SmartBod for women's health. Mental is a portable brain.
Yes, exactly.
And
There is one more. So you have so many. NOx. Thank you.
spirometer for asthma management.
Exactly. Thank you. And that I think was represented at the SAGE Scholars presentation as well. So this is going extremely well, so much so that the Office of the President has asked us to be one of the 2 pilots across the UC system, as President Napolitano wants to expand this model of entrepreneurship and the impact that UC might have to society through this avenue. And we are working very closely with QB3 on a collaboration to expand this Foundry effort downstream from this very early stage that the Foundry represents, to commercial incubators and commercial funds that can support companies of that nature. So we'll tell you more at the next town hall meeting in the fall. The CITRIS Mobile App Challenge, that's actually an institution that is growing in popularity. It has quite a bit of impact. Just to remind you, groups of students participate over 3 months. They get intensive training in formulating, in implementing, and in presenting their ideas. This culminates in a competition where the best ideas are being awarded, and they move on. Some of them, they become Foundry companies. And we have the Foundry memo, the Mobile App Challenge demo days are set for this year. UC Berkeley, UC Merced, and UC Davis, all of them in May. So I encourage you to attend. And of course, the Marvell Nano Lab. We actually have a new video to show you. Just a few words about the Marvell Nano Lab. We are fortunate to have it in our facilities. CITRIS has been instrumental in making this facility. The genesis of CITRIS, as you say, has been instrumental in making this facility available. The Nano Lab, it was known before that as the Berkeley Micro Lab, has more than 40 years of history in Corey Hall. Started as an electrical engineering exercise. It is actually an element, it has an element in this business model and its ethos that is represented in CITRIS. I've been told, because this all happened before my time, that the professors gave up their nice 4th floor offices and they moved to the basement in order to yield space for the clean room. They built the clean room with minimal support from the state. In fact, they received a loan from the state that they repaid down to every penny. Okay? And the micro lab, now known as the Marvell Nano Lab, has grown organically, supports a very large number of people, provides amazing variety of technical capabilities. And I would like to play you this little video. And I will challenge you to recognize the narrator after we're done.
Welcome to the Berkeley Marvell Nanofabrication Laboratory, or as most members simply call it, the Nanolab. The Berkeley Nanolab is a 15,000 square foot Class 100 cleanroom with a wide range of micro and nanofabrication capabilities. The Nanolab serves over 70 principal investigators and more than 450 graduate and postgraduate researchers on an annual basis. The Nanolab is first and foremost an academic research facility. However, excess equipment capacity is made available to affiliate companies if their research needs do not conflict with academic research priorities. Over the past 15 years, the Nanolab has welcomed more than 100 affiliate member companies, approximately 1/4 of them based upon UC Berkeley developed technologies or founded by UC Berkeley alumni. Nanolab capabilities are organized into 5 major classifications: lithography, etch, deposition, metrology, and packaging. Lithography capabilities include not just contact aligners, but also 3-step and repeat projection systems and a 50 keV electron beam nanolithography system that is qualified down to 10 nanometers. The Nanolab supports 14 plasma etch tools and has custom equipment enabling xenon difluoride etch, HF vapor etch, and supercritical CO2 drying. Thin film deposition includes 10 horizontal LPCVD systems, 6 DC and RF sputter deposition systems, 6 evaporators, and 2 PECVD and 2 ALD systems. But the Nanolab is so much more than just a collection of high-tech equipment. The Nanolab is a research community. Researchers from 10 departments and multiple campuses are supported by a professional staff of 25 and a custom machine shop with 6 machinists and technicians. Having such a wide range of researchers and technologies under one roof fosters innovation. The pursuit of new ideas, education, and discovery is what the Berkeley Nanolab is all about.
Thank you. And I hope you direct your appreciation to the Nanolab manager, Bill Flounders, and to the director, Professor Wu, that actually are leading the microlab in the Nanolab into its next stage. I am sure that many of these capabilities are perhaps not understood in this audience. They are quite a bit at the bottom of this inverted pyramid, but they're extremely fundamental because, trust me, technology is not just mouse clicks. Somebody has to build things and has to build them from the ground up, and the Nanolab actually provides this capability. Now, in addition to that, and again, in the interest of society, the Nanolab plays a key role in our overall outreach effort, and we're being reminded that we have many years of tradition in involving high school interns in the Nanolab, where they're provided with bunny suits and safety rules, as Bill says, but we have 25 alumni, 4 new recruits this year, and that's a tradition that continues, and I think it's going to be quite impactful. Now, as the video mentioned, the Nanolab is serves a very diverse community. It started as an electrical engineering exercise 40 years ago, but now it goes beyond that. In fact, it goes beyond the Berkeley campus, and it goes beyond the UC system in terms of its users. Very large number of users. I would like to point out one little detail here. As you can see, that the number of external users has a slow but steady growth over time, balancing out the total users to a constant of about almost 500. This facility always derived its health, both its financial health is entirely run as a research facility, but also its intellectual health in terms of promoting innovation by having this very diverse community, and I'm very pleased to see that this continues. Now, just a few words about the CITRIS membership program. CITRIS is an outward-looking organization. So we worked with the communications team and the leadership team in order to rationalize the way we interact with foundation institutions and companies. And we settled down on a fairly simple membership scheme at one very basic level. The CITRIS membership allows these entities to sponsor student-focused programs, have some visibility and promotion through our communication systems, but also access the student groups, for recruiting purposes, organize tailored workshops to explore research collaboration with our community, and opportunity, of course, to sponsor events like conferences and so on. Our intention is this is not meant to be a money-making proposition. These things rarely are directly. They are community-building exercises, and we intend to grow this as the time goes by. Now, companies, foundations, and institutions that contribute to our actual research, they fund students, they fund postdocs or professors, or they do experiments in our labs, they are recognized as CITRIS partners. That gives them access to additional things to do, some of them at some modest additional cost. But of course, they can sponsor specific projects that are suitable to them. They have access to our visiting fellow program of putting people in our space for an extended period of time. They can participate on relevant scientific advisory boards. And of course, they have access to relevant laboratories and test beds, out of which we have actually many. Speaking of test bed capabilities, it is actually mind-boggling if you do an inventory to see what we have within our ecosystems. Prototyping, for example, building MEMS, building prototype integrated circuits devices, rapid prototyping, 3D printing, laser cutting. This building that we're sitting here today is a test bed for energy efficiency, very well instrumented and monitored. We have a UAVs test bed out in Castle Air Force Base at Merced. Of course, many robotics test beds, smart grid test beds, and so on and so forth. So it is our intention to make those visible within our community, promote the cross-collaboration and cross-usage, both within our community and also in participating institutions. We also want to rationalize the way we welcome visitors to our midst, and specifically to CITRIS space. We recognize these visitors as coming primarily in two categories: visiting industrial fellows. These usually happen as a result of during a deep collaboration with some outside institution, and visiting scholars, that they come usually carrying some scholarships from nonprofit institutions. So establish a reasonable fee to pay for the appropriate CITRIS services. And we would like to work with those of you that host these visitors to work together to make these things rational, make rational use of space, and get access to these opportunities. Of course, we'll grandfather any existing visitors until their visiting term comes to renewal. And this is going to go into effect again as of the new fiscal year. Lots of things are happening. One thing that we are adding to our activities is the CITRIS Showcase Day that is going to be happening once a year in the October timeframe. The first one is going to happen on the 13th of October. We envision a day of a morning of plenary talks, keynotes, and an afternoon of interaction with our students and scholars in poster sessions, demonstrations, open houses to centers, and so on. So please mark the day, because we expect that many or most of our industrial and institutional friends will be visiting on that day for that purpose. Lots of new faces. Many of them have been well recognized. I would like to recognize Dan Gillette, Christian Lustre, Jessica Chu, Queen Shen, Angela Liang, and Cecile Basnadz that joined CITRIS, I believe, very recently. And so we'll try to keep you informed about all these comings and goings. Lots of events. We have a full calendar starting with today. In less than an hour, we have a presentation on managing water scarcity for future cities. I invite you to participate in this very space. Many other presentations, you can read them here. I would like to highlight one of them. That happens on May 14th, an international conference on who owns the data. I hope you understand how topical this subject is and how exciting it is. So I welcome you to come and participate. And with that, I would like to bring this presentation to a close. Again, I would like to thank everybody at CITRIS School who put this together, and specifically the communications team, Julie and Cheryl. for doing such a great job on putting the materials today, not only for today's presentation, but also in rolling out the new initiatives. So thank you all. I have time for some questions and discussion. I'm glad to hear them. Ken.
Just one quick, thank you. One thing I'm remiss in not mentioning is the fantastic students, graduate students that we're all working with, and postdocs. So someone like Brandy Nanaki, who's here. We have Sachin Patel. Florian Pokorny just joined us. And there's so many more that are actively working at our school. And I would have to say this is one of the greatest assets that we have here in CITRIS, and they are, I would say, I think it's safe to say, the best students on the planet.
Thank you, Ken. That was quite appropriate, and another reason why the job is not thankless at all, actually. Yes, Tom.
So one thing I didn't mention is our new Center for Health and Technology building that we opened up about a year ago on the UC Davis Health System campus in Sacramento, and would welcome anybody who wants to take a tour of that building. We have a virtual hospital in that building, virtual operating room, a virtual trauma room, etc., with very high-end simulators. We have media production facilities in that building. The telemedicine clinic operates out of that building, but some lab space for development of devices, etc. And we plan to use that as an asset for this. But if anybody is interested in coming up and taking a look, David and I would be happy to take you on a tour of that. Thanks.
Yeah, indeed, it's a very impressive facility. Josh.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks from UC Merced, where our provost recently announced the results of a 2-year process to focus the hiring plan. So some of you know we're getting ready to double the physical footprint of the campus. As part of that, we'll nearly double our student enrollment and we'll double our faculty. So with 150 new FTE lines on the table, it was time to take a serious look at how that growth is going to happen. As it turns out, the 6 areas that have emerged for strategic focus are well aligned with CITRIS activities. These include sustainability, big data, social injustice, chem, bio, and materials, and management and entrepreneurship. So I would imagine out of these 150 lines, it sounds about 75% of those are going to go towards these academic areas for strategic growth. And I'm excited that many of those folks are going to be aligned with CITRIS.
Good.
Yeah, thanks.
And of course, we hope that many of these positions might be available to our students, right, as they grow into them. Okay. Thank you all.